Okay, so because I'm a private investigator, we're going to watch this YouTube show right quick. It is titled, Would a Private Investigator Help or Hurt Idaho Student Murders? My opinion, it would definitely help. In reality, in reality, some departments, especially small counties, they don't like private investigators. They think we're scum and don't know what we're doing. Well, let's see what they got to say.
Any tips that you might have, anything that you might be able to give us.
Should one resource police use on the Moscow murder investigation include private investigators?
It should.
I'm Anjanette Levy, and welcome to Law and Crime Sidebar Podcast. The
Sidebar
idea of hiring a
Podcast.
private investigator was first floated by Steve Gonsalves, the father of victim Katie Gonsalves. He was very frustrated with what he saw as a lack of progress in the investigation. You will recall that Kaylee and her roommates, Maddie Mogan, Xana Kernodle, and Xana's boyfriend, Ethan Chapin, were all stabbed to death in the early morning hours of November 13th. It's been nearly 6 weeks since the homicides occurred. In that time, families have been pleading for information, but police have been keeping much of that information about the case from the public.
The police have to keep a lot of information and detail to themselves. If you release it to the public, it can jeopardize the case. So certain things that they know, if you let that out, then rumors start flying and make it worse. And then your killers, whoever did it, find out what the police have, and then they go and they try to really start covering stuff up. So yeah, that can hurt. They're not going to let that out.
Which happens in criminal investigations.
Yes.
The family of Xana Kernodle sent out flyers this week pleading for anyone with information to come forward. The Moscow Police Department has enlisted the help of both the Idaho State Police and the FBI to solve the case.
However, when you do have a private investigator, and I've not watched this yet, but a lot of times witnesses won't talk to the cops because they get scared. In my experience, I've had a lot of people tell me they will not talk to the cops because they're afraid of retaliation, and they don't want to do that, and or they're afraid of whoever committed the crime will come back and get them for ratting. So let's see what they say.
So should some of that help come from private investigators?
Yes, it should.
This is the
Private investigators can go and talk to people, and they'll feel more comfortable talking to a private investigator. But private investigator can also mold and be your friend. Yes.
Joining me to discuss whether or not hiring a private investigator for these families to investigate the murders themselves.
Side note, me for example, do I look like a private investigator? No, I'll go out looking just like this. People have no idea. All right, let's finish.
It's TJ Ward. He is a private investigator. He's been in the business for 40 years. He has a website, tjwardpi.com.
TJ Ward. Never heard of him, but let's see what he's got to say. He's a retired cop. Let's see what he's got.
On this discussion, this idea about the family of Kaylee Gonsalves potentially, and I say potentially because we don't know if they've even done that, hiring a private investigator to investigate these murders.
Well, hiring a private investigator is probably an asset to the case because there's a lot of witnesses that we know that probably were going to talk to law enforcement, and what they would do is talk to somebody that's not associated with law enforcement, and we can gather information probably law enforcement wouldn't get, and we would build a case for them and turn it over to law enforcement.
Unfortunately, a lot of law enforcement departments, they don't understand that. We can build a case, give it to them, and then of course I've done that, and they want to take credit, so they don't want us involved.
When you were in law enforcement with Fulton County, would you have wanted a private investigator talking to witnesses for you, or running a parallel investigation? Would you have not liked that, or what would your feelings have been about that?
I don't have a problem with a private investigator working a parallel investigation as long as they don't get into areas that might hurt the case or do something that may not be proper that we couldn't use in a court of law later on. And with my experience as a former law enforcement officer, I know what my boundaries are to be able to utilize information.
Boundaries. Boundaries. How does the private investigator know what the boundaries are when the investigator won't talk to the PI and tell them, here's what we have, a little bit, can you do this or that? We don't know. But we can't interfere with a criminal investigation because that's interfering. That's a charge. We can't get in the way, but we also want to maintain integrity and we don't want to jeopardize the case. But if law enforcement would work parallel with a private investigator, then the private investigator would know, oh, there's a boundary right there. We don't want to cross that and talk to those people because it could potentially jeopardize. And if they would say, but could you go and interview this person over there, then we'd know where we need to go. So it's kind of a hard thing when they don't work with us.
Get information for law enforcement to be able to use.
One thing that I thought you said was very interesting is the fact that there are probably witnesses in this case who may not feel comfortable talking to law enforcement. However, they may be more comfortable talking to someone who's not a sworn officer. They feel like they can be more candid. Have you experienced that in your investigations?
Absolutely.
All
that
the
has
time.
happened before, and we build our cases. I build cases. I get hired by lawyers and private individuals and companies to build a case, whether it be theft or whatever.
All the
and
time.
I turn my investigations over to law enforcement, where they take it and use it in an indictment, where I would testify as a professional to be able to testify in court from what information that I found and utilized in the case. Very important. And there are a lot of people that do not like to talk to the police. I mean, the police are the authority. It scares them when they may be a potential witness for the.
Because they use intimidation tactics. Not they. Most.
They don't want to be, but talking to a private individual as myself, as a private investigator, they're a little bit more comfortable talking.
Yeah.
I think one of the reasons for that is because, talking to a law enforcement officer, you could get jammed up.
Yep.
I mean, we've heard stories about this where
They can manipulate
they
you
have arrest
and cause
powers.
you to
The
say
police
things
have
that
a
you
lot
didn't
of
mean to
power.
say it like
And
that.
I'm
They
sure
twist
the
your
officers
words.
in this case
It's a
want
whole
to
mess.
get it right.
Not
They want
everybody
to
knows
get the
they're
right
entitled
person.
to
So is
plead
that
the
one
fifth
of the
and not
reasons
talk
why people don't always
and
feel
hire a
comfortable
lawyer.
talking to law enforcement?
That's correct. And it's just the authority that they have and the power that they have, as you mentioned. Law enforcement is a little bit different category, what they're looking for. And
The
people are
handcuffs.
scared that they're
That's
going to
scary.
get incorporated into a case that they don't want to get incorporated to, but they'd like to share what they know. It's the same way if they find cameras or find vehicles or identify something that they don't want anybody else to know. Especially in this case in Idaho, that they're looking for vehicles right now. Someone may come forth and feel comfortable talking to a private investigator and giving them information that I'm going to share with law enforcement. And anything that we
Yes,
get,
we share
we have a
everything. We
protocol
document.
to know
We
if
write
there's law
reports.
enforcement involved,
We
anything
share
that we
everything
can
with
file
them.
information we're going to give to them.
Yet they
We
don't want
take-
our help,
We don't take things
which
in our
does
own
in the
hands
end make their
and
job
go
harder.
above and beyond what law enforcement would do. We turn it over to them, which builds a relationship with us and law enforcement to know
No,
that
it
we're
doesn't
credible.
build a relationship
You
at all.
mentioned the search for the white Hyundai Elantra.
So it doesn't build a relationship at all with us. They still look down upon private investigators, even though we had to study more, go to school more, and learn more, and we know the laws more because we studied it. But sheriff's office, some of them, some law enforcement agencies still show a lot of disrespect, and we work very hard to be where we are. That's my opinion, folks.